So he poisoned him, shot him 3 times for good measure, one time in the head, and 1 in the heart, and he still lived.
Dude's dead. He's dead. He's in the movie.
Bruh,
he's the main
at that
character in
point,
the movie.
I can't even afford. Like, he was a villain. He was thorough. Unorthodox reaction. Unorthodox intros. We are young. Yeah, we cannot sing to save our lives.
So let's set the world on
Welcome back,
fire.
guys, to another Unorthodox reaction. You cannot sing.
Yes,
I can sing better than you, and I
that?
cannot sing.
Let me
at
hear you
all.
sing. Go on. Give me
We
something.
just heard it.
No. Give me something.
Tonight.
Nah. We are young.
You saying the words, you're not singing right.
So let's set the world on fire.
Yeah.
Make it brighter.
You should go on X Factor. Why? What are you still doing? How have you not made it yet?
I'm going pro. I don't know what you're talking about.
Welcome back, guys, to another Unorthodox reaction.
Today
we have for you a infographic show video, and of course, it's here. We're here to learn about Rasputin, as suggested in the comments by a couple of people.
I'm anticipating the video. No, I'm joking.
Rude.
Sorry. My item of the day, since not everyone does it.
Without further ado,
Do-rag. Sponsored by Do-rag, lads.
he literally went. It took us 10 minutes to film this. He went to the shop and bought that just to do that.
Because I'm committed.
Just to do that.
I am committed.
And he's trying to act like he actually wears it.
I am committed. You can clearly see I'm wearing a do-rag.
In like 15 minutes to figure out how to put it on.
Oh my gosh. I am committed to the cause.
Anyway, guys,
man of
without
people.
further ado, let's get right into it.
Thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Crystal Born.
Oh, this is the
Heroes of Faith,
infographic.
a free to download fast-paced dynamic.
Were you even
RPG.
listening to the
Use our link in
intro?
description to
I don't
download
listen
now
to you.
on iOS and Android. This might be the
It's
most
terrible.
ambitious mobile RPG
There's no
in
transition
history, and we
whatsoever.
can't
It's
stop
at the
playing it.
start as
Crystal
well.
Born will assemble a team of up to 6
Zeros all the
heroes,
way
each with
around.
unique abilities like calling in a destructive
Creativity,
whirlwind or
nothing.
summoning an airship with a... He
I'm
had
quite
the
annoyed
piercing
by that.
stare of a viper,
Yeah.
was seen as a sexual
But
deviant,
intrusive.
A
and
bit
some called
false.
him
Yeah,
the
like-
devil or the Antichrist. And Felix Yusupov, a Russian prince and aristocrat, knew he must be stopped. It would take poisoned wine and a bullet to the head, followed by a plunge into the icy Neva River. To
Damn.
last in the
Dude,
life
he's
of
dead.
one of Russia's most
Facts.
controversial
He's
figures,
already
the Mad
dead.
Monk, otherwise known as the unkillable Rasputin. Grigory Yefimovich Novik was born on
Grigory
January
Rasputin.
21st, 1869.
Wait,
To a
go back.
Grigory Yefimovich Novik was born
So, where did they get Rasputin from, if that's his name then?
What are we going to tell us?
Maybe.
on January
It's
21st,
a 9-minute video, mate.
1869,
We've got
to
time.
a family of peasants in
I'm just
Pokrovskoye,
saying, I
a
like
tiny
asking
village
questions.
in Siberia near the Tura River. His mother had 7 other kids before Rasputin came along, but some died as babies or during childhood. Rasputin's
dang.
siblings who survived past childhood were named Dmitri, Maria, and Varvara. There might have been a 9th daughter named Theodia, though. His
She's
dad,
there, like,
Yefim, was
I
a
don't know.
peasant
I don't know.
farmer with his side gig of being a diplomatic courier, a fancy way of describing transporting people and goods between Tobolsk, his small town, and Tumin, a larger nearby city. Rasputin was considered a strange kid growing up. People in his village thought he could have visions and heal people. One record details how a young Rasputin was once sick in bed, and a group of peasants came to see if he could point out who of them had stolen a horse. He rose up out of bed and pointed to the one who was guilty. Turns out he had pointed to the right guy, because the accused was seen taking the horse out later that night. According to the
So why did they need to go to him to ask then?
That was so odd as well. Like, they
It's
just
just
randomly went to him. Like, dude, we know
Like,
you're not
hey,
well,
we know you're not well, but
who do you think did this?
I don't
It's
know
either
what
me-
basis did they have to
They were
think
like-
that he would get that
They were
right.
Like, it's either me, him, or him. Guess.
Just guess.
And then he points at
Whatever
the
you
person,
guess is what we're gonna go
and he
with.
points at the person. He's like, "Damn, how'd you know?"
The book Rasputin: A Short Life. While this astonished the villagers, people were wary of him, thinking he might be possessed by the devil. He also had the ability to calm hysterical animals. According to the crime books, big ideas simply explained. At this time in his youth, though, he was more notoriously known for stirring up trouble, being accused of getting into fistfights, drinking too much, and sexually assaulting girls in the village. He married prostitute
okay.
Rona Dubrovina when he was just a teenager. Exactly what age, though, is unclear. and they had 4 kids, but he cheated on her with women from all classes of society, from prostitutes to women of higher
Rasputin.
social standing. He stumbled upon a monastery at the
Sounds like a
Capri
playboy.
when he was 23 and trained to be a monk, eventually failing to become one though. It was here that he also taught himself how to read and write, and eventually went on his own way. He became a
This is his
wanderer who
redemption
roamed to
arc.
holy cities in Jerusalem and Greece, subsisting off of donations. His nomadic existence got him the name
When he said donation, I just think like if he was alive nowadays, he definitely would have opened a Patreon. He'd be
Yeah,
like, hey, sponsor me.
Not even a
Strategy.
Patreon. What's it called? Those pages that like kind of help him reach a goal and stuff like that. What's it called?
Oh, with the
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Fund Me or something like that.
Yeah, GoFundMe.
GoFundMe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
which roughly translates to wanderer of religious or pilgrim in Russian. He eventually encountered the Kalisti Flagellant sect, a breakaway of the
Okay.
Russian Orthodox Church. This sect was a cult that believed in achieving holy passionlessness or exhausting themselves through physical
That just
activities
looks painful.
like praying, dancing, and spinning. They also did this with sex, partaking in orgies. Rasputin simply called all these activities driving out sin with sin. His wanderings also took him to St. Petersburg, Russia, and this was where his fame took off. After gaining attention for his religious zeal and charisma from the Russian Orthodox clergy and members of the imperial family, they introduced him to Tsar Nicholas II and his wife Alexandra. Their son Alexei, who was heir to the throne, had hemophilia, a hereditary condition that causes a person's blood to not clot normally and then leads to excessive bleeding. This disease can lead to death if not treated or if it starts in the brain. Tsarina was panicked that he'd
Yeah.
die before assuming his position. Rasputin came to the boy's aid and reportedly spoke some prayers, was at his bedside, and Alexei recovered, despite the doctor's grim prognosis that he'd likely die from his condition. In addition to being Alexei's healer, he also served as the family's spiritual advisor, being called their holy man, and was revered as a prophet. Alexandra went so far as to say she believed God spoke to her through Rasputin. Rasputin's
Okay.
rendezvous with the royal family did not go without rumors and scandal. There was talk that there was an affair happening between Rasputin and Alexandra, but
Oh, yeah, for
historian
sure.
Douglas Smith, who wrote the book Rasputin,
Why did you just assume
I thought that as well.
Why?
Because if she thinks God's speaking to
To
through him,
him,
of
wouldn't
course
she
he
be
said
more?
some dumb stuff.
No, wouldn't she
he
be
cheated
more?
on his wife. He cheated on his wife. with
Exactly, but
multiple-
like I'm saying,
He has
wouldn't the
no
woman
rules.
then be more vigilant of like, oh, I don't want to commit a sin in front of God's messenger if she assumed that he was like
They don't think
being
like that.
spilled through.
They don't. Didn't
Like
you hear,
I feel
didn't
like
you hear
it's
the
either
people
like
who were driving
it's
away?
so like opposites. Like they're either like they jump to conclusions so quick. They're either like, oh, he's a messenger of God, or they're either like he's a messenger of the devil.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
Couldn't
do
he
you
just be
people
a
not
nice
have
guy?
an answer? Just find something else, bro. But I guess it's like in them days when
They
freaking
don't know
survival
about it,
was like,
yeah.
religion was really mainly the only thing that
Yeah.
kind of kept you going.
and faith power in the twilight of the Romanovs, dismisses these, saying in an interview, there is no truth to the stories about Rasputin and the Empress Alexandra having been lovers. Alexandra was quite a prudish Victorian woman. There's no way and no proof that she would ever have looked to Rasputin for sex. Smith further thought that people spreading those rumors were mainly politically motivated.
Yeah, they just
One
wanted
side
to
that
have a
wanted revolution
position.
and the overthrow of the Romanovs spread those
That's what she said.
stories to make the royal family look corrupt, while the other half thought their dealings with Rasputin were dangerous and that Rasputin himself was dangerous. Smith also has his
Oh, boy.
thoughts on what happened during Rasputin's so-called healing sessions with Alexei. He believed that instead of Rasputin having mystical healing powers, his presence by the boy's bedside influenced him to get better. Other historians think his mother being calmed by his presence in turn made Alexei calm, which had a healing effect. Then some postulate that him deterring the boy from being seen by doctors helped because they'd given him aspirin, which would thin his blood and worsen his condition. Rasputin served as Alexei's healer again in 1912 after he developed a hemorrhage in his thigh and groin regions when he was on a carriage ride and it jolted. This caused him to develop a hematoma that resulted in pain and fever. Certain this would kill him, his mother asked Anna Virubova, a Russian lady-in-waiting and right-hand woman to Tsarina Alexandra, to send Rasputin a telegram while he was in Siberia with a message to simply pray for her son. Rasputin wrote back shortly after receiving it, assuring Tsarina that God has seen your tears and heard your prayers. Do not grieve, the little one will not die. Do not allow the doctors to bother him too much. And now we
What would have happened if he actually then died right after he received that letter? Like, oh, you lied.
Yeah.
You're not a messenger.
get to the juicy details of why Rasputin was dubbed unkillable. The first single-handed attempt
Yeah.
at killing him was by a 33-year-old peasant woman named Kayonia Guseva on July 12, 1914. After reading about him in the newspaper, she came to the conjecture that he was the Antichrist and a false prophet. She stabbed him in the stomach outside his home in Pokrovska, leaving a 14-inch long gash that exposed his organs. Rasputin had to have a
how
local
is he
doctor
not
perform
dead?
emergency surgery on him to save his life. The next assassination attempt, to which we alluded to earlier,
That is actually like ridiculous luck, considering like the way medicine was back then as well for like
he's
operations.
infected. Yeah, all
Like
that.
the chances of him actually surviving that
There
is
was simply
ridiculous.
because Felix Yusupov wanted.
Look at that.
Next assassination attempt, to which we alluded to earlier, was simply because Felix Yusupov wanted Rasputin out of the picture for his own gain. And here's why. Rasputin's death meant Tsar Nicholas II would have the opportunity to make the royal family more powerful again, because he'd be more influenced by his family and take their advice. Rasputin gone also meant that he could return from being away in the military and live in St. Petersburg to rule. It was December 30th, 1916. Yusupov invited Rasputin over and fed him cakes and wine that were poisoned with potassium cyanide. Rasputin was then shot 3 times, one of which was a close shot to the forehead and another in his heart. Yusupov's book, a memoir, recounts the experience like this. The devil, who was dying of poison, who had a bullet in his heart, must have been raised from the dead by the powers of.
So he poisoned him, shot him 3 times for good measure, one
his
time in the
forehead.
head, and one in the heart, and he still lived.
Dude's dead. He's dead. He's in the movie.
Bruh,
He's the
at
main
that
character in
point,
the movie.
I can't even put like he was a villain. He was thorough, and he still didn't.
He's the main character in the movie.
It's like yeah.
You know when a movie has a magical
It's like if
explanation as to how he survived?
James Bond's villains, how
Yeah.
they would leave him to like some convoluted
Yeah.
trap and say like, oh, you're gonna
he's
die
gonna
once,
die,
this-
yeah.
and then it's like, oh, time, and then they just leave him be like, oh, you're gonna die, and it's like if James
was
Bond's
very
villains were
thorough.
like thorough, like I'm gonna poison
Every
you,
movie will be
shoot
10
you in
minutes.
the head, watch this laser cut you in half, and he still lived. And he's like, well, this is a terrible movie. What do you mean? How does that work?
Evil. There was something appalling and monstrous in his diabolical refusal to die. It took days for police to find his body because the river had frozen to sub-zero temperatures. Rasputin's legacy and political
he
influence
did die.
stretched far beyond his death. Tsar Nicholas II's decision to go to the front lines was mainly at Rasputin's behest, because he was convinced that the Russian army would be nothing without his leadership in battle. Nicholas proved to be inept at war, so Rasputin was wrong in his conjecture. Rasputin's death also meant the Romanov dynasty's fate was extinction. Russia took an economic hit because the 15 million men who went to war meant a dip in their workforce, and the food to subsist the soldiers could have gone to the citizens. Rasputin had been dead for over a year by the time of the Russian Revolution in 1917,
I was gonna
but his
say.
influence was still strong. The royal family's influence, meanwhile, was in complete shambles. They were imprisoned for 6 months on house arrest, while the Bolshevik government that had taken over figured out what to do with them. 6 months later, the royal family was killed
Off
by
with their
firing
heads.
squad.
Ah.
Rasputin, what was seemingly just a small peasant, ended up being a force to be reckoned with and an influential part of history. And as you've gathered from today's episode, nearly immortal. This video was brought to you by Crystal Born Heroes
Nearly.
of Fate, a free-to-play, fast-paced.
Dang, I thought he was gonna say he lived after that. I was gonna say, like, bruh, there's no way.
did he?
I'm gonna need some proof, bruh. But nah, he
He went-
died.
he just-
I think he
he's
just
just
like
still
he
alive.
just kind of became like a legend in a way, and then
Yeah.
lived that way. But dang, okay.
Quite interesting.
I feel like we did miss like a lot of like information from that because it was like going quick. So especially
like
at
I
the
didn't.
start, I feel like I did a lot.
I understood
Before
a lot
he
of it.
got
That's
to the
quite
point
good.
of like how he was unkillable, I felt like I missed a couple pointers that he might have pointed. I think
think
it
it
was
was
went by
quite
so
good.
quick, but yeah, it was really good. I like it. I
Very,
thought it was gonna be like just kind of spewing, which it was kind of spewing information,
but
but
in an interesting way.
yeah, it made it interesting.
The infographics really good. It's
Yeah.
actually really good.
Might will have to watch. I think we have done a couple on
Yeah,
our
we've
channel.
done- We've
Might
done
watch
a
more,
couple
though,
bad
we'll
ones
see.
as well.
Oh yeah, the
Couple.
security one. I think
Yeah,
I remember
couple
that
bad
one.
ones. Yeah.
Anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe,
Exactly.
notification bell, all the good stuff. Comment,
you feel
reaction,
watching with us,
suggestions below.
We appreciate you. If you're no longer here, you left early. We still appreciate
Of
you. Thank you for
course.
checking in. And make sure you look after your loved ones. Stay blessed.
And we shall see you all in the next one in a bit.
Peace.